our next biggest issue. Like you, we have nowhere to meet. If we ever start regularly having meetings over 20, I mean, the moment we meet in people's living rooms, there's not even an outdoor space in our neighbourhood that would hold a meeting. Like, we've met on a street corner a few times. There isn't a public park in our neighbourhood. That's one of the main issues for local activists, actually. We've also organised one and taken part in another rally at the street corner that passes for a public space in our neighbourhood, in solidarity with workers killed in Bangladesh, both last year in the factory fire and then this year in the collapse. You know, as part of trying to connect with the Bangladeshi community in the neighbourhood, you know, we've attended Kamani Gray protests, you know, along with people who've gone to Flatbush in solidarity with people there. We did stuff for Occupy Sandy. I mean, a couple of points I would make about how we've managed to keep going as a quite small, very community-based Occupy. I think one of the things that's been absolutely central is that we don't just discuss campaign work. You know, I mean, we do obviously spend a lot of time talking about Golden Farm and the public space in particular, and then other bits and pieces, but at almost all of our meetings, and we meet, on average, we've met about twice a week for a year. Sometimes it's been more frequent. Like
twice a month.
Oh, sorry, twice a month.
Wow, I was going to say
once every 2 weeks is what I was looking for. Yeah. Once every 2 weeks on average. So we've had months where it's been once a week because things are happening tactically with Golden Farm and we have to have a lot of meetings. And then other times it would be once every 2 weeks, and then every now and again there's been a break. But what we find is when it gets down to just like campaign work and key things that are happening, and that's the only thing we're discussing, we get the lowest attendance, and it's the core people. And the way we've drawn in other people and kept them coming back and so on is having like half of the meeting is a political topic. And it's not always linked to something that we can directly do anything about. I mean, you know, like often it's always linked to stuff that does affect us in some way or shape. But like we've discussed the stop and frisk, we've discussed the presidential elections. You know, with every shade in the room from, you know, like we had people who came and argued for, like, we've got to vote for the Democrats, it's the lesser of two evils, right through to people who we shouldn't ever vote for anything, basically. You know, that wasn't put too strongly, but, you know, basically Occupy had achieved more on the ground than any voting would do, and then people who were arguing for the Green Party or building an alternative. You know, like a full discussion, we've discussed boycott, divest and sanction. That was one of our best attended, most controversial meetings, you know, in regard to Israel. Discussed the education reform movement and how to fight back Chicago's teacher strike. You know, all these different things. And that is what has kept people coming, and that's then how we get those people, you know, people who aren't street activists, but, you know, they've come to the meetings, they're engaged, and we're convincing them, and that's how we're then getting them to go out on the street in a much more political way than they were before. And I guess one thing I want to say is Nikos made this point about, like, why aren't we mass movements? And I feel that this is a refrain from, particularly from a lot of the younger people that I've talked to who are in Zuccotti Park, and there's a huge frustration. We were so big, we were, you know, and like the rest of the country didn't listen to us. You know, there's all these people who are affected by all these things and they just didn't see it. And you're right, they didn't see it. They saw bits of it, you know, there was a lot of sympathy. Like there was the working class in general in New York sympathised with and supported what was happening in Zuccotti Park for a period of time. But to keep that, like, you can't keep that going endlessly. We're not a mass movement because this, I'm a socialist, but this isn't a pre-revolutionary period. It's a pre-revolutionary period. This is a bit you try and build for that. It takes time, you have to be patient, you have to talk to people bit by bit and take them with you. And instead of saying, I have seen the light, now we must move forward, you have to say, okay, I've seen the light. Now we have to work on spreading the word and building people's resources to fight back.
So, welcome again, everybody. We started a bit late. We're supposed to go for until 1:50. I'm going to propose that we extend it by 10 minutes, since after that is the break anyway. So, yep. Everyone's for it? Great. Okay, let's show those twinkle fingers. Now we're in an Occupy meeting. If it's all right, I just want to take a minute for a couple of comments. You know, what you both had to say, which I thought was very, very interesting. It's so much more substantive in some ways than my own thoughts on this. I noticed, Nellie, you talked about the political machine and the real estate developers and how the power really is. We barely, we've learned a great deal about it in Astoria, but we have no idea yet about how to confront it. And maybe we should have from the beginning, because we have Valone there, who's Mr. Stop and Frisk personified. But clearly you're dealing with, we all live in Astoria and we've been there generally for years, but maybe we're like, I felt like you're much more tied to the neighborhood in Harlem than we are in Astoria. I got that impression, and that's a difference in the circumstances of each neighborhood, perhaps, the economic circumstances to start with. I heard kind of from both of you the problem of how often it's 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 people who have to do everything. They do it with cheers and the enthusiasm of many others, and what they get for it is cheers and enthusiasm. That's the pay as well. But you keep running into this problem, that people are all for it, but in the end, very few people have to do the work, and there's always the danger of burnout. I remember at the very beginning with Occupy Astoria, we had all these working groups, and we were having 4 meetings a week when you said 2 meetings a week, but that was only for a few months. Especially when it turned into all the working groups were roughly the same people coming. One remarkable thing that you said, was that you've been involved in the Golden Farm struggle for a year now, I guess, continuously. I think that is extremely important. It's very serious organizing work, and can be very wearying because it's just one thing over and over and over again, and but so rewarding. We never really got into one thing like that. We've had like 12 different spectacular things at times, but not entirely like that. One thing we have been involved in was working with the teachers against the school closures and the corporate reform. That has been kind of a longer theme, but we just keep coming back to things. Another thing I noticed is both of you had immigrant groups that you've worked with, Bangladesh, Haiti. We have the Greeks, that we've worked with a great deal in Astoria. So that's always something that can and should be happening in New York, and also leads the way into much greater involvement in people, because people just do identify as their group, as their ethnic identity. I think you both definitely brought up the importance of general vision and education, and looking way past just the local neighborhood, and the interest that this inspires, and how people want to come in and talk about things like Haiti and the indefinite detention and so forth. So next, I was going to suggest that we just do the intros finally, now that everyone has showed up probably.
Want to watch this right quick? I don't want to throw it off too much, but we also have
This is the left form, we don't do triangles.
Okay, sorry.
The triangles
Love.
are
We have Occupy Sunset Park here too, so I guess somewhere along the line.
I was going to
we could do-
suggest, right after the intros, that
Okay.
we get reports from other occupies who are present, and then we ask one question that we want to have a kind of starter to the conversation, and see where it leads. So we've got an hour from this point. So introductions, and then reports from other occupies, having heard what we've heard so far from the 3, Harlem, Kensington, and Astoria. My name is Nick Luis with Occupy Astoria, as well as the Greece Solidarity Movement. And shall we go this way?
Okay, so I'm Cora. I'm originally from Spain, and now I'm a member here of Socialist Alternative.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm a member now of Socialist Alternative here, but I'm originally from Spain.
Oh, I'm Smumba. Most of you, some of you know me. From Occupy Wall Street, as well as a group called Occupy Evolve. We started to help to do coordination between the occupied as well as organized citywide.
I'm Tim. I'm with Occupy Kensington.
Could you speak a little louder?
My name is Tim. I'm with Occupy Kensington.
Hi, my name is Frank. I'm from Syracuse, New York. I consider myself an occupier, though I wasn't particularly involved in the General Assemblies in Syracuse. And I think this brings up one of the things that I'm interested in learning about more people's experiences as those folks who were first-time activists through Occupy versus those of us who were already engaged activists and didn't have time to necessarily be involved in general assemblies of Occupy, and how those two sides of the coin affect now the continuing movement.
My name's Nick. I'm from Southern Illinois, or I live in Southern Illinois. I was active in Occupy St. Louis and Occupy Carbondale, the town I live in. I'm engaged in a kind of long-term research project about the Occupy movement, and that's a question that I'm really interested in as well.
My name is Ian. I'm active in Occupy Sunset Park almost since its very beginning. I'm also a supporter of the Kasama Project.
I'm sorry, of the,
Kasama Project, which makes me a communist.
What is that?
what is
It's
Kasama in a sentence?
project for the reconception and regroup, a communist project for reconception and regroup in the 21st century. I'm here for Occupy Sunset Park.
Lisa Nauer, and I've been involved in Occupy Sunset Park since actually this weekend.
Yeah.
Sunset Park. And Occupy Kensington formed just as I moved out of Kensington. I lived there for 11 years and didn't know any political people in Kensington in 11 years in the neighborhood with Flatbush.
We'll all come out of the woodwork now.
Got involved in Occupy Sunset Park because that was the one neighborhood Occupy in Brooklyn that was somewhat close and that I knew about. So I've been commuting my activism to Sunset Park for the last year.
My name is Rob Hollander. I live in the East Village, or Alphabet City. I got involved with Occupy before September 17th because I had the meetings at Tompkins Square Park, although I never believed that it would really fly. And then I got involved in the no co-option documents that also never flew because the General Assembly never could approve anything. But I've kept him involved, maybe somewhat marginally, through Old Bank, that's on Nick. But I also have a group now that is resisting chain stores and corporate control in New York. It's called No 711 because it was a very local issue for 11th Street, and I'd love to talk more about it, and I have lots of questions as well.